Hello and welcome to another edition of Florida Sportsman Action Spotter Podcast. I'm Captain Rick Riles. Hey, let me tell you something. It is moving now. Boy, we've been waiting on September to get this mullet run going. It is underway. All of the bait fish are on the move in freshwater and salt. And you know what that means? Good fishing. When our bait's moving, our fish are moving, and it's going on right now. So let's do this. We're going to take a quick trip over to Costa Rica. I got to get my fix after having an incredible billfish trip over there. We caught 2 blue marlin and 8 or 9 sails, I think, and dolphin up to 50 pounds. But regardless, we're going to check in with Nosara Paradise Fishing real quick and Captain Craig Sutton and find out what's going on there. Then we're going to come to the northeast corner of Florida, work our way down the east coast, up the west coast, out the panhandle, and find out just where the mullet run is, find out where the hot action is, find out what's biting and where. So make yourself a cool drink, sit back, and we are going to have a Florida Sportsman Action Spotter podcast. Let's get it started with a quick trip out to Costa Rica and check in with Craig Sutton. Let's get our trip started. You know where we're going. We're going to Nosara. My goodness, I'd go there every day if I could. Can't wait to check in with Captain Craig Sutton and see what's going on at fishingnosara.com. Craig, are you with us?
Yes, sir, Captain Ricky. Right here, buddy.
Tell me what's going on in Nosara.
Well, you know, we had that red tide move in right after that full moon on the 23rd, and we decided to go ahead and pull the boats out and start our maintenance. We got them all on the hill. Pulled the harvester last Monday, and just, you know, doing maintenance, get ready for our new year to start November 1.
How about that? Well, my son's big blue marlin didn't tear up the side of the harvester or anything, did he?
No, but I'll tell you,
I was worried.
You know,
about
every
that.
year when we were going over the survey on the Wonder, they had a hole in the lower cow, not the upper cow, but the lower cow, where a marlin come through and shoved his bill through there. Like a nice hole about the size of a quarter. But then when we were pulling the rub rail off the Discover, we found a sailfish bill stuck in there about 6 inches.
Really?
So,
I'll be darned.
Yeah, people don't realize those boats, man, they become a target for those big, aggressive, especially those marlin, man. They can be, you know, we had one several years ago come in the harvester with myself and a couple other clients. It was pretty interesting,
No,
to say the least. But,
interesting's not the word for that.
yeah, it's just, you know, people don't realize those marlins, they ain't scared of you. And if they still got energy when they get close to that boat and they get a shot, they're gonna try something on you. They're not scared.
Well, I'm gonna tell you something. I saw your guys doing something that when I first looked at it, it didn't look very good to me. But then after I realized what they were doing, I've decided I'm gonna take it up. What I saw Wilson do one time, and it was on a blue one, was pull the leader up to where he could see that circle hook was in the corner of that fish's mouth.
Mm-hmm.
And then he jerked on it 2 or 3 times. Well, obviously he's not going to break it. It's 200 or 250-pound leader. But it drove that fish crazy. He comes out with tail walking all the way around the back of the boat. That's your dirty little secret. That's how you're getting all these great shots right alongside your boats.
Yeah, and a lot of fish will come to the boat green.
Right.
And the worst thing you want to do is reach down and grab that bill when it's crazy.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we've had on video before where it came across the face of Elias and came across his face and knocked his glasses off, but missed his skin. So that's pretty, and we've had several videos where they knocked the hat off the mate going down. So they're little gun shots, especially on a marlin. Sailfish, yeah, but that marlin, that's a bad boy.
I know that you've told those boys, because I've seen them do it, that to bill those fish with thumbs together and your arms are stiff, and they can't get you then.
Well, lock your elbows.
Yeah, lock your elbows and
together and lock your elbows and relax your shoulder. Otherwise, you're gonna be having some surgery.
But Craig, if they'll keep their hands thumb to thumb, not one in front of the other, thumb to thumb, the fish can't get to them.
Yeah, lock those elbows. Yeah, they can't. But, it's my first time grabbing a sailfish. I didn't relax my shoulder, and about 30 seconds later, I was sore up there and realized you better relax that shoulder and let him do whatever he's going to do.
Yep.
Just keep your thumbs together, your elbows locked, and if he jumps, he's going to, you've got that distance from your arms. But, it takes a technique. I mean, it's like everything else. It's a technique for sure.
When we were teenagers, my brother got a sailfish in the chest. And fortunately, it wasn't too bad. It did require a trip to the hospital to get it cleaned out, but it was ugly. Cap, that sounds fantastic.
Well, it could have been a lot worse.
Now you'll be back fishing when?
Actually, we're going to start the third week of October. We've got a group coming in, and I think, Ricky, as of late, we haven't had hardly any rain because Ida sucked all that moisture out of Central America. So it was probably a bad call on my part to pull the boats. We've had about 6, 7 different groups that wanted to fish this last week. And so, and I'm thinking that, the full moon in October, which I think is the 19th, 20th this year, that's going to be the end of our rainy season.
It could be. Boy, that'd be a good short one. Yeah. That'd be a good short one.
Well, it's actually not. It's, we had rain the 1st of April this year. And I've been going down there for over 20-something years, like 22 years, and never seen it rain in April before. And all my guys, lifelong residents said the same thing. They never see it. They never saw it rain the first week of April before. So, it just, I think we're a little out of cycle and everything's happened a little bit earlier than normal.
Yeah. Well, it rained just the way you're supposed to when we were down there. It started when we took the lines up, and it ended when we got ready to go to dinner. Couldn't have been any better. Thank you, Craigie.
And that's the best pattern in the world.
You ain't kidding.
Thanks, Ricky.
We'll check with you next week. Our thanks to Craig Sutton for a great Nosara, Costa Rica report. Craig's report and all of our action spotters are brought to you each and every week by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. By Shimano, bringing people and nature together. By Tournament Master Chum, the best chum on earth. By Nosara Paradise Rentals. If you ain't been there, you got to go. D.O.A. Lures, the unfair advantage, and by Young Boats. You want the finest in offshore, hybrids, flats boats, and bay boats? You need to check out youngboats.com. Time to hit Florida. Let's go up in the northeast corner and see what's going on with Captain David Voorhees. David, how are you?
Hey, Rick, I'm doing good, buddy. Doing good.
Good deal. I tell you what, the mullet are on the move, aren't they?
The mullet are on the move, and I tell you, water temperatures are coming down. This is my favorite time of the year. We've got flood tides coming up this week, so I'm looking forward to that. People always ask, one questions people always ask me, and that is, what is your favorite time of the year to fish? And without a doubt, I usually like September, October. I like that early fall season. And the reason is because these fish, this time of year, when the mullets start leaving, shrimp are out, things start exiting, these fish, they go on some pretty good feeding frenzies. And that's what we've had this weekend. It's been a great bite this week, and the variety is still around. Plenty of trout, plenty of flounder. Saw some nice flounder today and yesterday. And then on top of everything, the redfishing just couldn't get any better.
I tell you, the redfish now, they're showing up shallow at low tide, what low tide we get, but they seem to be getting hungrier, don't they? Aren't they getting easier to get on the low tide?
They are, and today was one of those days where you just, you got on an area and we just caught almost a redfish on every cast.
Woo!
Granted, a lot of them were small, but this time of year, those big bull reds are showing up in the river.
Mm-hmm.
I see a lot of guys are starting to target those now. But, the good thing about that is, Rick, is, for the longest time we've had, and most of the local people will know what I'm talking about, the little jetties in that area. And the little jetties have been taken out, and a lot of people still fish in the St. Johns River in these deep areas for those bull reds. And, they'll fish anywhere from 30, sometimes 35 feet deep. But, I think now you really don't have to go that deep for a lot of these bull reds. I'm seeing a lot of them moving up and down the intercoastal, not far from the St. Johns River, but close enough to where they're not in really, really deep water. And what I mean by that, I'm catching some of these bull reds in 20 to 25 feet of water, which means that you don't have to vent them. They really release well. I don't have any issues with releasing them. Usually you put them in the water and they take off and they head straight back down to that deep water. And so plenty of bull reds, still some topwater action. Talked to some guys this week up in Pottsburg Creek, and man, they were catching some beautiful snook, Rick. You should have seen. I'm talking 32, 33-inch snook on topwater plug.
What is it about Pottsburg? That creek has always held snook. Why?
And big ones, too.
Why there?
Rick, I don't know. I've always said this about our snook in this area. They don't like a high salinity.
Yeah.
They like that sweeter water. You can catch them, you're going to find them in areas where there's a lot of springs that come out, a lot of runoff, a lot of fresh water. They tend to be around these creeks that produce a lot of fresh water. That's all I can tell you.
It's just funny to me that Arlington River's right near there.
Yep.
Goodby's Creek is right near there. There's all kinds of other creeks. Ortega River's across the river from there. But, boy, they love that Pottsburg area, and I'll be darned if I can figure out why. Well, David, that's a fantastic report. I'm glad to see you're fishing really getting into the time of year that kind of makes your life easy, doesn't it?
It does. It's these last few days have been a no-brainer. Today I had a couple of young boys, a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old, and I tell you, it was fantastic to keep those kids' attention for the entire 4 hours, and they stay excited the whole time.
That's perfect.
But they were excited. I kept them on fish most of the day, which has sort of been the way the whole week has gone this week. A lot of action and a lot of variety.
Thanks so much, David. What a great report. I can't wait to hear about next week. I know as long as these mullet are moving, there'll be fish chasing them. We'll check with you next week, David. Thanks again.
Absolutely, Rick. We'll see you, buddy.
Captain David Voorhees from Backwater Fishing Adventures bringing us to Northeast. Now let's scoot on down to East Central and find out what Captain Jim Ross is up to. Now let's head down to East Central and check in with Captain Jim Ross. Jim, are you with us?
I'm with you, Rick. I'm with you.
Buddy, it's good to hear from you. Tell me what's going on the Space Coast.
We got some big smoker kings still running the beaches. Those, even 30, 40, 50-foot depths, even out to about 60-foot depths. I mean, there's some fish on the reef still, too, but those bigger fish are still inshore right now. They're chasing bonita pods around. They're chasing pokey pods around. There's a lot of those little hornbelly pods down here right now as well. And they're just in there feeding on all of those different kinds of bait fish, even some good-sized blue runners inshore. Used some of those today. Didn't get any kingfish on them. We actually ended up getting hammerheads and black tips and spinners and, every other kind of shark that swims in the ocean, it seemed like. But lots of kingfish and the bigger fish in the nearshore waters. And then, of course, those sharks are traveling with them. And we're still sight fishing tarpon, Rick.
Good.
The fish are up top. They're floating. They're happy. I saw them tailing today. It just good solid action all along our nearshore waters this whole week.
Man, I tell you what, that's fantastic. That is fantastic. Now, what are you seeing for mullet? Is your surf full of mullet yet? We got them going up here.
Well, they're starting to trickle in. The last couple of days, they've been a little bit better on the low tides than they have on the middle or upper sections of the tide.
Okay, I got you. Ain't nothing
no heavy run yet, but pretty good one.
Well, it's on the way, Jim. It's here now, so it's on the way.
I'll
bet you by the time we talk this time next week, you'll be seeing a lot more mullet.
I love the mullet run.
Oh, everybody loves the mullet run. I got a question for you.
Okay.
All right, your neighbor just bought a new Skeeter just like yours. Okay?
Okay.
And he wants to fish like you do. So he invites you. Now, he's got his rods and his reels and his basic stuff. But he's inviting you to come along on his maiden voyage. What are you betting that he doesn't have that you're going to make sure you take with you?
It's all the periphery things that you don't think about. Everybody thinks about, okay, I need some spinning rods. I need some trolling rods. I need, this, that, and the other. I need a 14 boxes full of lures. They've normally got most of that, or at least most of what they think they need. What they forget is the small things, those auxiliary things, if you will, those ancillary, I think is possibly even a word, if that is a word, things. And, things like, if you're going to go bottom fishing, it's mandatory that you have a descending device.
Right.
So he probably didn't think about that. A venting tool is okay, but now, you have to have a descending device, and it's supposed to be rigged on a specific rod and ready to go when you start bottom fishing. So it's nice to have, that little rig already pre-made up with a weight on the bottom of it, all ready to go, ready to snap onto one of the rods that you won't be using when you're bottom fishing, so that you can help get those fish back down and, keep them from having the barotrauma. So that's one of the things, for an offshore type of a boat. And I noticed that right around the 60-foot mark is where fish start to have issues. Out to about 60 foot, we don't seem to get too many fish that have that barotrauma issue, especially our rib snapper. But outside of 60 foot, that's where they start having issues, especially if you bring them up fast. Now, the other things that I like to have, because there's so few sharks in the ocean these days.
Right.
A long-handled D-hooker is a fantastic tool to have. And they work just as good on the sharks as they do on the barracudas, as they do on the kingfish. I even use them on the big redfish. I use them on snook because, a big 40, 45-inch redfish, when he sucks the hook down and gets it in his little throat area, that's a long way down to try and shove your hand with a pair of pliers.
Yeah, it is.
And it's really difficult. So a long-handled D-hooker is another thing that I would always make sure that I would have. I also like a lipping tool, and I don't use the lipping tool as a lifting device, though. You see a lot of people hanging their fish vertically on a lipping tool. This is not what a lipping tool, not the way I use a lipping tool. I use it to control the fish when I'm trying to get the hook out of his throat. So to be able to clamp it on the lower jaw of a fish that's laying on the deck of the boat, and then open his mouth and be able to hold it open so I can get the D-hooker to the hook, that's the main reason that you're going to need a lipping tool of some kind. It also helps in aiding, when you're releasing the fish by putting them back over the side of the boat. That's a secondary thing that is good for it. And then lastly is a good gaff. Most guys will not spend $100 or $150 and buy a good gaff. They buy these cheap gaffs that basically, if you hooked a pinfish on it, it would probably either bend the hook or the hook would pull completely out of the daggum handle.
Right.
And so I look for a good quality hook. I like the Winthrop hooks myself. I use the 2-inch and 3-inch Winthrop hooks. So if I'm fishing for king mackerel, small dolphin, I use the 2-inch hook. If you get into some bigger dolphin or some wahoo or some tuna, then the 3-inch hook comes in handy. So, depending on where the guy is around the state, he could be in 400 feet of water, 400 yards off the beach in some places, and he'd have to go 40 miles to get to 40 feet of water in other places. But these are all things that are really important that a lot of guys don't think about.
Yeah, you're right on the gaff, Jim. And if I was going to nail it down to one size, it would definitely be the 2-inch. I've seen plenty of fish that were too small to gaff with a 3-inch. I've never seen one I couldn't subdue with my 2-inch if I needed to. So
here's the thing, guys are like, man, that hook's so small. Hooks, they're not a round bend hook. They're sort of a goofy, jagged looking check mark almost, if you will. But here's the thing with that 2-inch hook. Who says that you have to sink that thing into the back of a 60-pound tuna's back?
Right.
You don't. Go for the eye socket.
You have to pick your spot if you're using the 2-inch gaff. You're absolutely right about that.
He's in the boat. He's in the boat.
That's great advice. Jim, thank you so much. Please tell me we can check with you next week.
Looking forward to it, Rick.
We appreciate it, buddy. Captain Jim Ross. Our thanks to Jim Ross for a great East Central report. Before we head further down south, let's hear a word from D.O.A. Lures. Oh, I don't need to tell you it is hot. And, of course, that means the water is hot. And just like the great fish always do, the biggest and the baddest of so many species we fish for will soon be holding in deeper water in an attempt to cool off. Well, you name it. If it feeds deeper in the water column, it can't refuse a D.O.A. terrorize. It drops straight down and it crawls across the bottom with an action that no deep feeder can resist. So whether it's a crappie holding under a lily pad or a tarpon rooting around the bridge pilings, D.O.A. makes a size and color terrorize they just can't say no to. You know, flashing that big bright eye in front of any bottom feeding game fish is just unfair. Maybe that's why they call D.O.A. lures the unfair advantage. All right, time to pull into Stuart. Woo, I love me some Stuart, Florida. We're going to check in with Captain John Earhart. John, how are you?
I'm good. Glad to be here, Rick.
Oh, we're glad to have you. Tell me about the fishing off Stuart. I saw a video of at least one sailfish jumping yesterday. Were there any more caught?
A lot of guys are catching 1 to 2 fish right now. There's definitely still some fish around. I'm not seeing large numbers of sailfish caught each day, but there's certainly the opportunity to catch, a handful, maybe 2 or 3 a trip. There's a few mahi mixed in, getting a lot of kingfish, a few cobia. It seems like we've had quite a few reef sharks and amberjacks and Goliath groupers, but that's, closer down to the bottom when you're bottom fishing for snappers and such. Most of the guys are trolling 90 to, 150, maybe out to as deep as 330 if they're trying to find some mahis. And sometimes you'll get those singular late summer sails out in that deeper water this time of year if you can find a nice condition like a weed line or an edge where you got 2 different water bodies coming up against each other.
All right, sounds good. Now the sailfish will start getting good again. Now, I guess along about December. What is it? Is it mostly just transitional from now till then, blackfins and mahi and such?
Yeah, it's going to be a transitional period. The sailfish is definitely going to taper off. We will still catch them. October, November. Once you get into November, December, that's when the guys really get hyped up for that winter migratory pattern of large numbers of sailfish. But while we're waiting for those migratory fish to roll through our area, we can expect some really good mahi fishing. Typically that's out deeper, but some of my biggest mahi have been caught in October and November, and even early in September. When the mullet run starts, I'll take a bunch of mullet out there and I'll live chum with those mullets since they're so easy to come by. And if you got an 8-12 inch mullet out there, your odds of catching a bigger fish are definitely going to be in your favor because you just got a better presentation with that bigger bait out there. Right on the surface, they're real active. It's definitely a good alternative if you can't find pilchards, sardines, or greenies, during these fall and winter months when they're not as prevalent as they would be in the summer months. Now, are you seeing mullet in the surf now? Have they made it down that far? We're seeing trace amounts right now. You're seeing a dozen, 2 dozen here and there in the surf. So I'm expecting to start seeing larger schools any day now. So, yeah, I would say the mullet run's just now starting, and it's only going to get better from here on out.
Oh, yeah. I can tell you the mother lode is leaving Jacksonville right now, and they are headed your way. John, that's a great report. Anything important going on inshore right now?
Inshore fishing's been pretty steady for snook. We're catching a lot of keeper fish, around the bridges, docks, seawalls. Mangrove shorelines. There's been some good tarpon action along the beach and channel edges, a lot of big jack crevalles, a few redfish here and there. So it's been pretty consistent overall. If you want to catch keeper snook right now, it seems like it's pretty easy to do that. We're catching a lot of fish in the 28 to 32 inch range, which is exactly what you want to catch if you want to keep one right now.
Outstanding. John, thanks so much. Please tell me we can check with you next week.
Yes, sir. I'll talk to you next week.
All right, good deal. Captain John Earhart. Our thanks to John Earhart for a great Stuart report where it sounds like they'll be getting ready for wintertime sailfish before you know it. But the mullet are just showing up. And when they get there, the snook and tarpon will go crazy in the surf. Now, let's hop on down to South Beach and check in with Captain Alan Sherman. You seen any mullet down there yet, Alan?
We've seen some schools of large silvers with a few black mullet mixed in. No finger mullet though, but it's some schools of mullet that maybe there's 100 baits in a school. So that's something new that just kind of showed up in the last week or so.
Now, is that on the
maybe
beach?
there.
Is that on the beach?
No,
Or where is that?
this was in the bay.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I would think the tarpon would be pretty happy about that.
Well, I guess that might be the case if there were tarpon big enough to eat these things, which there aren't.
I see.
We do have some tarpon in the bay. We have some snook in the bay as well, but the tarpon are more in the 10 to 30 pound range.
I see.
I mean, a 30 pounder would eat one of those mullet, but they're more interested in the larger pilchards that we have in the bay and along the beaches. So that's what they've been feeding on. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Hey, Alan, I got a question for you. First
Sure.
off, before we get into that, how's your offshore fishing?
The offshore fishing has been spotty. We've had some really huge thunderstorms here all week long, late afternoon, starting anywhere from 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, all the way to about dusk, and then they were over. But they've been coming from the west and then racing offshore and dumping enough water to create floods.
Wow.
And this has been happening literally every day all week.
Wow.
Nothing unusual. The only unusual thing is the amount of water that we've been getting and the winds, which have come up to 30, 40 miles per hour in these storms. So I was out today fishing offshore looking for dolphin, and started out it was breathless, no wind at all, or maybe even a little light west wind, which always calms everything down. But once we got in the Gulf Stream, which was close to shore, there was a really big groundswell out there. And the further out you went, I wouldn't say choppier, but the rougher it got with those groundswells. So, you know, we're dealing with these weather patterns right now that have been hampering us. But we did fish. We looked for dolphin. We went as far as 1,800 feet and never found a real weed line, just little bits and pieces, no floating debris, no birds. Just got frustrated and put some trollers out and started heading inshore. And out of nowhere, we hooked up on a school of dolphin.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so there are some fish out there. And listening to the other guys on the radio, they were catching some, and they were doing basically the same thing. If you run and gun and looking for that magical piece of debris, there wasn't a lot to find. But in this case, if you put some trollers out and covered some water, you increase your chances of bumping into a group of fish.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That sounds
Closer
really
to shore, there was kingfish, bonitas, and black tunas, and they were up along the outer reef from, say, 80 feet out to about 120. The best technique to get those fish recently has been trolling sea witches with strips of ballyhoo on a planer, just to get the baits deep, and that's where these fish have been biting. One of the party boats yesterday got a 32-pound gag grouper off of one of the wrecks. That was one of the boats from the Kelly fleet, the Mucho K. That was a pretty nice fish, and they've been getting some yellowtails. Yeah, they've been getting some yellowtails and mutton snappers off the ledges and the rocky bottom as well. But you know, the dolphin fishing's been the most disappointing thing, because there's fish out there. It's just it's so hard to find them because they're not concentrated around anything. They're just cruising.
You know, I asked an old captain friend of mine for advice back 30, 40 years ago when I was first running a big boat out to the Gulf Stream, and he was out fishing me every day. And he said at the time, he said, got to fish somewhere all the time, Cap. And Alan, it made me mad. Oh, I was mad. I hated him for years until I realized he told me exactly what I needed to know.
Exactly.
You know, blind trolling is tough. It's rarely fruitful. You got to try and find something to fish on. So fish on something all the time. Hey, let me ask you a question, all right?
Okay.
Your neighbor wants to fish like Alan Sherman does, and everybody else does too, but he just bought a 24 Pathfinder. He invited you along on the inaugural trip, the maiden voyage. Now he's got his safety equipment, and he's got his rods and reels and all. What are you going to stick in your bag that you know good and well a new fisherman's not going to know to have?
Well, I see this all the time. I don't do a lot of charters on other people's boats, but I do go aboard other people's boats just as a pleasure trip. And what they're always lacking is something to measure the fish.
Good. Yep.
And if they don't have something to measure it, they don't know what size the limits are, whether they're in season. So I would suggest what I have on my boat. I used to have the Florida Sportsman law sticks, the ones that you could just, stick to the side of the gunnel.
Oh, yeah. I've been through many
but
of
they're
those.
not making them. They're not making them anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So I found one that's called the Florida Ultimate Law Sticker. It's a fish roll, and it goes up to like 36 inches. And it has pictures of all the fish, their names, and the regulations, and it's current. So that's what I would bring aboard.
I like it. Okay. That sounds like an excellent idea. Thank you, Alan. We'll talk
welcome.
with you next week.
Look forward to it.
Okay, buddy. Captain Alan Sherman from right there in Miami, where he says, don't get on another man's boat without a way to measure your fish. What an excellent piece of advice.
You know what Yamaha Outboards love? The genuine formula and consistency of Yamalube marine engine oils. Outboards are subjected to punishing conditions like high loads, salt, and humidity, a mix that automotive oils can't handle. Yamalube full synthetic and marine performance formulas are certified to protect against friction and corrosion for reliable performance every time. Find Yamalube marine oils at your nearest Yamaha Outboard dealer. Locate them at yamahaaoutboards.com/dealers. Yamaha, reliability starts here.
Hey, Raj, being consistent is the mark of a quality product. If you've been Florida's #1 chum for over 10 years, there's got to be a reason.
For 10 years, Tournament Master Chum has lived up to his name. That's why more tournament pros insist on Tournament Master than any other chum. It's the only chum with Menhaden milk mixed right in. That means it gets the scent out faster and deeper than any other brand of chum. It comes in a grind size for every species from kingfish to catching bait. Your fishing time is way too precious to you second-rate chum. Bring the action to you by insisting on Tournament Master Chum. It's worth every penny.
When you're ready for the finest in custom-made flat spay or inshore-offshore hybrids, you are ready to meet the Young family in Inglis, Florida. For over 21 years, the Young family has built custom boats one at a time for every type of fishing. Nothing can sneak up on a flat quite like the Gulf Shore flats boats, and I've never fished a better hybrid than the Young 24s and 27s. Rob Young is a naval architect who takes tremendous pride in each and every build for each and every customer that wants their boat custom built exactly the way they want it. Is it time for you to move up? Are you ready to own the finest boat built? Then you need to visit the Young Boat facility in Inglis, Florida, or check them out online at youngboats.com. All right, thanks to Alan Sherman for a great Miami report. Now let's jump across the state to 10,000 Islands and check in with one Steve Dahl. Steve, how are you?
I'm doing great, Rick. How are you doing today?
Outstanding, my boy. Tell me about your fishing.
Things have been good. It's still warm. Water temperatures are still on the high side a little bit here. I'm being, first part of September, but the good thing is the fish are still cooperating. So, our redfish bite that we've been talking about for the last couple of weeks is starting to wane just a little bit, but they're still productive days. I mean, you still can go out and catch, 6 to 10 redfish in an outing. Not a problem. And some of those fish are starting to get big. Fish over 30 inches are definitely in the mix. We kind of were getting them on artificials when they were super active, but not sure if it was the holiday weekend that slowed things down a little bit or, any numbers of factors. But it seems like the live bait's been working a lot better. In particular, pilchards, cut ladyfish, been at the top of the list. If you have to shrimp it, you can. But I would definitely bring if you want to throw the net or speak you up some pilchards. There's plenty in the area. We got a ton of bait going on right now.
I'll be darned. Well,
fishing's been really good.
Now, when do you guys get much for mullet? I mean, are you going to start seeing a lot more mullet like November, December?
Yeah, we do. We do that. We don't see, what, the East Coast will, the traditional, quote unquote mullet run, if you will, but we'll see a little bit of an influx, but we've got a pretty healthy population of them year round. really not hard to find mullet in our area. So, but we don't see, the chaos of a true mullet run that the beaches off the East Coast do.
Well, let me tell you, you're missing something, because I've told people forever, I don't care if you fish, drive down to the beach and walk along the beach. You've never seen such a thing. I mean, it's just.
Yeah, I've done it both by boat and by beach over the years, and I got to tell you, you know me, Rick. I like to just kind of take in the moments too, and I'll catch a few fish and just watch it. It is just a sight to be had to watch that many predator fish of all species be in the mix, and just busting through these huge schools, and it's a sight to behold. If no one's ever done it, definitely worth the trip over to the East Coast. You can literally follow the schools, throughout the week.
Oh yeah.
Pretty cool.
Oh yeah, but every day there's a lot fewer than there were yesterday when it comes to the individual schools. Well, that sounds like an outstanding report. Are you hearing anything from offshore at all?
Yeah, the offshore bite's actually been just as good. We're starting to, the gag grouper and the red grouper are both kind of, doing really well right now. The reds in particular, which is great. And everything else is kind of in play. The snapper bite's been really good. Got passing of the dark moon this past couple days, so that's really accelerated the bite out there. If you're into catching some big mangrove snapper, big lanes, there's been some vermilion snapper in the mix. Of course, you're going to get red snapper if you're out deep enough in our area. Obviously, they're a little overrun. I think we've had that talk a little bit. Probably too much over the years, but the reality is you want to bend a rod offshore right now. It's a great time. Amazingly, the winds have been pretty calm. We're getting some westerly winds, obviously, in the afternoon, but they've been pretty fair seas. So, it's in the extended forecast. It's actually looking fantastic. We're not looking for, too much of any rough stuff. So, if you got some friends that want to go offshore, I'd probably try to put it together here this week.
Yep, got it. And the weather's not going to stay stable for long. Thank you so much, Steve. Please tell me we can check with you next week.
Oh, looking forward to it, Rick. Can't wait.
All right, buddy. Take care. Thanks again. Now let's pop up to West Central. And Ray Markham, I am quite frankly ashamed of you.
What now?
Well, we've been having this question tonight about what you would take if somebody invited you on a boat that they had just bought and you knew they weren't real experienced. You wanted to make sure that they would catch fish. And what did Ray Markham send me? A picture of a case of beer. Ray, you missed the point.
Well, wait a minute now, Ricky. In case you didn't notice, that wasn't me who sent that. That was somebody from a different area code. Check it out, dude.
Oh, why did I automatically blame you?
I have no idea.
Why? What, after 35 years of friendship, would ever give me that idea?
I don't really know. Yeah. Maybe you're just getting old.
I know, that could be. All right, Cap. I want a fishing report, and I want it now.
All right, buddy. Well, we got all kinds of good stuff happening. Water seems to be cleaning up in most places inshore for sure. We're not really seeing any kind of signs of red tide on the inshore scene. If you get south of Sarasota, you're going to start seeing a little bit going on still as you get down closer to Englewood and whatnot. But the fishing has been radically improving. I think we've got some new fish moving in. But still we got a whole long way to go before we can catch up to the quantity of fish that we lost due to the red tide fish kill. But still, we got new moon tonight, and all week this week and into next week, and we should have some good tides and some fish chewing on the inshore scene. The guys that are fishing offshore, are telling me that they're doing pretty well with, some kingfish, and we haven't really even gotten into kingfish season yet, but, the deep shore wrecks, which is typical, are seeing some of the first kingfish moving in on them, and we're talking about anywhere from about 80 to 120 feet of water. Guys typically are out there, they're looking for blackfin tuna, or pretty much whatever else they can find. They've been doing real well with amberjacks way out there. Finding a few of them on some of the springs, but there again, when they're anywhere from 120 to 180 and even deeper, some of these guys are muscling up some of these big amberjacks. I'm glad it's not me.
Yeah, they can have the big ones. I used to love the big ones, Ray. My wife tried to set the women's world record on 6-pound back when they kept them.
Oh, Lord.
And listen, she didn't make it, but she got a 70.
Wow.
That's a good one.
That's a wow.
Yep, that's a good one.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah,
but you know what?
We're not into that anymore, Ray.
Yeah, no. Well, same thing with tarpon. You know, I mean, I love small tarpon because they're so acrobatic and absolutely go nuts. But, you know, right now I'm in my happy place with some decent snook and some hard pulling redfish. We got bluefish, we got ladyfish, we got jacks, we got a little bit of everything, but flounder. But I don't look for the real movement of flounder coming in until we start getting some cooler weather. But other than that, life is good here on the West Coast, and we're looking pretty good.
Now, do you see a mullet run this time of year over there at all, or no?
Well, it kind of starts right about now. You know, talking to a lot of the mullet fishermen, they tend to tell me that it starts in August and typically goes through about October, November. But that was the norm, I think, probably 4 or 5 years ago, when we used to get some, you know, cold fronts starting at the latter part of September, early October.
Yeah, that's
but
over.
We haven't really gotten any cold fronts, you know, until almost November now. So, you know, I think it's making some changes with the spawn. If you go on the East Coast, it's totally different story. But there again, you're dealing with different kind of water temperature in the Atlantic versus the Gulf. So, I mean, right now, you look 60, 80 miles offshore, and you're looking at the loop current that comes up from the Keys and comes in close, and guys are out there, you know, looking for blue marlin and white marlin and a little bit of everything, because that loop current comes in and it's bringing that warm water up there, and these fish are following those currents. So, you know, crazy stuff. Crazy stuff.
That's excellent. All right, Ray, we appreciate it as always. Please tell me we can check with you next week.
Yeah, buddy.
Hey, thanks a
we'll
lot.
be looking forward to it.
Captain
Take
Ray
care.
Markham. Now let's move up into the Big Bend and check in with the mayor of Homosassa, William Toney. William, how are you?
Doing good. Enjoying this great Labor Day weekend here, getting through all that and avoiding all the storms. And actually, it feels pretty good outside this evening.
Tell you what, any day this time of year, we don't have one staring down the barrel at us. That's a good day, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we kind of dodged it with Ida here a while back. But, you know, something I was going to tell you about here along the Big Bend, our water is really dark. I don't remember any time, you know, in the last 10 years of it being as dark as it has. And it's just because we've had so much rain over here.
Yeah, that would make sense. Fresh water would look that way, especially if it's running out of the rivers.
Yep, tea stain. So, you know, the folks who are trying to get into the last little bit of scalloping season, what I've talked to a couple people, you know, here lately is the visibility is not really that good. Now, they're still getting them in some of the better places. Now we're getting into the final part of scalloping season. It ends on the 24th, is just west of the St. Martin's Key. So if you've been to Homosassa, Christopher area, you want to run probably about 4.5 to 5 miles due west of St. Martin's Keys. Start looking for that little clear band of water. And it's really funny how that works, because I've been south down toward Hernando and Chesawisca, and here up on, you know, Crystal River, Homosassa, there's like about a 1 mile stretch out there where you can kind of see the bottom. And then once you get beyond that, it gets dark again. So those folks out there still want to get some scallops for the end of the season. You want to be about 5 miles west St. Martin's Keys, or about 3.5 miles. It would be southwest of the Chesawisca Tower, there's still a spot there, but we're going to be coming into some tides that's going to be more favorable. You want those low tides during mid part of the day, and we got those coming up this coming weekend. So, that would be the best thing. And plus, they're pretty good sized scallops. The big thing is just, finding that clear water so that you can see them. They're out there.
I got you. So it's a problem, not a problem with scallop population, just a problem with being able to see through the water to spot them, huh?
Absolutely. We've had just a lot of freshwater outflow. And, here on the Big Bend, a lot of tidal swamps and things like that. They just take their time leaching out, and so it makes that water real tea stained. Now, it's been helping a trout bite pretty good, and you get those trout that's been in that dark water, and that gives them just a different color. Their fins are almost yellow, and they're almost black. So it's kind of a good thing for us. It helps that water cool down just a little bit. So we're starting to see an uptick in our trout bite, anywhere from 3 to 5 foot of water, using a D.O.A. popping cork with a 3-inch glow shrimp or the glow cow shad. If you can get those chartreuse 1/8 ounce jig heads, that's been the best bait for your trout, 3 to 5 foot of water. And, if you can see some of that rock grass that's bent over on an outgoing tide and target that area. And what I've told people, they're really pinpointed in. They're not spread over a big flat. So if you're getting in there and you catch 2 or 3 trout in a row, mark it and stay right there within that 100-yard radius, and you'll probably get a limit.
Cool. That's excellent advice. Excellent advice. Thank you so much, Cap. We always appreciate it.
All right. I'll be right down here in downtown Homosassa.
You can count on hearing from us next week, William. Hope your shoulder feels better, buddy. Now, let's start on out the Panhandle and check in the Northwest section with Captain Kevin Lanier from KC Sport Fishing Adventures. Kevin, how are you?
Hey, Captain Rick, we're doing good. How about yourself?
Good, good. Any fishing going on over there yet?
Oh, yeah. We've been doing some fishing. The weather finally subsided enough to let us out. We were able to get offshore, and, we were not disappointed. We were able to get into some vermilions, and we got a limit of triggers. We also got a couple of lanes, too. So it was a good day. And the bonus fish of the day was a nice keeper-sized gag grouper.
That is a bonus. Isn't that funny? That used to be such a regular part of our catch, and now it's a bonus. It's crazy.
Well, where we were fishing, I was not expecting to get it because we were in closer because the weather further offshore was still kicked up pretty good, but we were out there about 18 miles on some of our artificial structure, and lo and behold, we got him. We got him on a little small grunt.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Anything going on inshore that you've heard of?
Well, scallop season's running hot and heavy here in St. Joe Bay, so we've had a couple of scallop trips. The funny thing is, while we're out there doing our scalloping, we've seen a number of redfish tailing, and I've seen a couple of really nice trout swimming around. So they're out there.
How's your water clarity, Kevin? William was saying you can't see a thing in his area.
Well, if you get in the 4 foot or less water depth, the clarity's good. I mean, you can see probably, 10 or 12 feet around you. So, I mean, it's good enough that we're able to see fish while people are snorkeling around.
Oh, that is good. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
And the scalloping's been good?
Scalloping's been good, but just like it happens every year when we have this derby mentality, it gets picked over pretty heavy in the first couple of weekends. So starting to get a little tougher to find them right now.
Yeah, I'm sure of that. Hey, let me ask you a question. All
Okay.
right, you're an offshore guy, and one of your neighbors just bought a brand new World Cat, just like yours. He wants to fish like you, and he's got all the rods and reels, got everything he thinks he needs. You're going to go with him on his maiden voyage. What are you going to slip into your tackle box that you're betting he doesn't have?
I know this sounds crazy, and I know this sounds simple, but I'm going to put in quality leader material and good hooks. Because unfortunately, I think when it comes down to it, guys tend to skimp on that kind of stuff, or they've got hooks. I've always laughed. People spend time sharpening the hook rather than throwing away and putting a new one on. So that's what I would do. I mean, if I'm looking at that, I'm going to have some quality leader material, some hooks, just to make sure that, the business end of our gear is going to catch the fish.
I've always equated it, Kevin, to driving 99 yards down the field and then fumbling the football. Because I see guys in my type of fishing, which is primarily ballyhoo trolling, all the time at the end of the trip, one of the guys will say, do you want to throw this other pack of ballyhoo away, or should we stick it in the freezer for next time? And invariably, somebody's going to say, oh, put it in the freezer. Don't waste it. Wait a minute.
Yeah, don't waste it.
Wait a minute. You spent $200,000 on your boat, and you're not going to pull the best ballyhoo you could possibly pull? How's that work?
Oh, exactly. I mean, we'll take home leftover cigar minnows. But you know what we wind up doing with those?
You can chum with them.
Chum.
Yeah, doggone right. Yep. You're not going to use them for bait. Kevin, that's a great report. I'm glad to hear your water's pretty clear, and we appreciate the heck out of it.
All right, Captain Rick, we'll talk to you next week.
Kevin Lanier from KC Sport Fishing Adventure. Well, that's going to wrap up our trip around the state for tonight, and it's been a lot of fun. Glad to hear about the Mullet moving on down. Now, they've made it in almost as far as Merritt Island. So if you're looking for them around Matanzas, Daytona, they should be in good shape there. Plenty of them in Mayport, but they're headed down the East Coast as fall is certainly on its way. Some pretty lackluster reports from the guys for the most part. Fishing's not bad. We just haven't had the exceptional fishing that we've had. The mahi fishing down in South Florida has been slow. The mahi fishing around Stewart has been slow. It's okay. It's just not great. Been quite a few kingfish. And again, the mangrove snapper have bit well. If I had to pick two species that have flourished this year in our fish boxes, it would be mangrove snapper and blackfin tuna. When you start up the West Coast, the good news is no more red tide. Seems to have left. The redfish and trout seem to be filling back in nicely from the southwest all the way through the west central up into the panhandle where the vermilion snapper fishing's good, and they're even doing well on triggerfish and lanes. So it's been a pretty good week. The good news is we don't have any storms on the way barreling at us. So let that last another month and a half and we'll all be happy. Hey, there's one thing you can count on. We'll be back next week with another Florida Sportsman Action Spotter. Florida Sportsman Action Spotter is brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. Shimano, bringing people and nature back together. Tournament Master Chum, the best chum on earth. Nosara, Paradise Fishing. D.O.A. Lures, the unfair advantage. And Young Boats. You want the finest in flats bay and offshore hybrids? You need to check out youngboats.com. Hey, for Florida Sportsman Magazine, I'm Captain Rick Riles, and until next week, we'll see you on the rip.